to try and catch up. We got to catch up. So we'll try and do an Amud and a half, a blot and a half, and see how far it gets us, and then we'll go from there. Yeah. So we're up to the top line on Tzadi Amud Aleph. Yeah, Toshima. So again, we were going through the sugya of how could it be that the Rabanan have the power to uproot dioyrayas. Right? That's the whole sugya. So the Gemara is going through all these various cases, a lot of them having to do with terumah tamei, that where the Rabanan make gezeras, and then they say, well, something that really is terumah, midirabanan, and then the Rabanan say it's not terumah. So you can have all sorts of problems from that. So that's what the Gemara is going to ask. A couple from terumah, and then on Amud beis gets to more common cases where the Rabanan changed the din dioyraysa. Yeah, so Tashima. Yeah, top line, Tzadi Amud Aleph. Achal terumah. Somebody ate terumah tamei, right? So mashalim chulin tahirim. So if somebody ate terumah tamei by mistake, right? Now obviously a Yisrael is not allowed to eat terumah. So Rashi says he ate a b'shogeg. Mashalim chulin tahirim. So he has to pay chulin that's tar. Yeah, because what would be the point? I mean, even though he ate terumah tamei, but if he gives back terumah tamei, so that's not going to do anything to the kohen. So he has to pay chulin. Chulin is like regular stuff. Yeah. Shilem chulin tamei, and if he pays chulin tamei, right, which he's not supposed to do. So sumcha soimer mishum Rabbi Meir b'shogeg tashlum of tashlumin. B'shogeg it works, right, and the tamei stuff becomes tamei. B'meizid ain't tashlum of tashlumin, but if it does on purpose, then it's not considered tashlumin, and he has to pay back again. Right, now the question is going to be is what's with this stuff that he paid back? Midirabanan l'chayra, it is considered terumah, and the Rabanan just said that it's not terumah. So that's going to be the kasha. Both of them are considered tashlumin. V'chayzer mashalim chulin tahirin, and then he has to go back and pay chulin tahirin. All right. So again, so Sumcha says it depends on if he paid back on purpose or by mistake, and the Chachamim say it doesn't make a difference. And there was a shaila, but we tried to analyze this. If ain't tashum, if he pays back chulin that's tamei, his payment is not a payment, right? But tamei la bracha, he should actually get a bracha for it. Why? What did he do? He ate terumah tamei. What's a kohen going to do with terumah tamei? Nothing. He could use it as firewood, right? And he gave him something that he could use in his tamei, because chulin, a kohen could eat. A kohen can only not eat terumah tamei, right? But chulin tamei, if the kohen doesn't mind eating tumah, meaning if the kohen's tamei, he could eat the chulin tamei. He can't eat the terumah tamei, but he could eat the chulin tamei. So the guy's actually paying him back. He's paying the kohen back something that's worth more than he took. He took terumah tamei, which is worth very little to kohen. All the kohen could do is use it for wood, right? Because he can't eat it, right? And he's paying back chulin, that's tamei. So even though it's tamei, but l'maisa the kohen could use it. So why is he such a bad guy? V'marava v'amri lo kedi. So and kedi, some say. So exactly what the word kadi is up to some debate, right? Some say it's a name of a person, and some say it's just no name, right? Meaning it's just that's the svara. Either way, there's something missing from this brisa, and this is how you have to learn it. If he ate truma tamei, he has to pay back anything, because truma tamei is worth very little. Meaning Rashi says when he means koldu, and even chulin that's tamei. If he eats truma that's tahar, then he has to pay back chulin that's tahar, because it wouldn't be right to pay back truma that's tamei. Shilem chulin tamein. But let's say he does pay back chulin that's tamei. So b'shogeg it works, even though it's worth less, right? Because the pshat is that he has to pay back the amount that he ate. So let's say he ate 2 stalks of terumah tamei, so he pays back 2 stalks of chulin tamei. It has nothing to do with the value; it just has to do with the amount. But if he does it beis, it ain't terumah, then it's nothing. Whether he does a b'shogeg, whether he does a b'mezid, his tashlumin is a payment. And he has to go back and pay chulin that's tar. So Gemara asks, right, the midirabanan tashlumin ma'al yahaveh. Here the tashlumin works. Midirabanan, the tamei, the tumah can become truma. The mekadosh bu kohen isha, because let's say a kohen would take this truma tamei and give it to a woman as kedushin, tafsilo kedushin. She'd be married. Rabanan ain't tashlum of tashlumin, but the Rabanan said that the tashlumin is not a tashlumin because shrinan eishes ishlama. And it's going to end up being what's going to happen is the Rabanan said, you know, that truma that you married this woman with, even though midirabanan it's truma, we're saying it's not truma. So the lady that you married is not married. When really midirabanan she's married. So what do the Rabanan do? The Rabanan are just allowing an eishes ish to the world. Again, midirabanan, the payment works. The truma, that's the chulin, that's tamei payment works. Right? So since it works, so then he goes and takes it and he gets married to a woman with it. The kedushin works. Rabanan come along and say no, the kedushin does not work. Right? So now they're being mater nation ish to the world. How can the Rabanan take a marriage and make it no good? So one answers, "Ma'in tashlumin to come Rameir." When it says the tashlumin is not a tashlumin, that Rameir said, the boy lemahar tashlumin chulin tahirin. He has to go pay back chulin tahirin, but the original truma that he gave remains truma, and the marriage is going to be a marriage. Meaning, when the Rabbanan said that you have to repay it, it's only referring to that he has to take off truma again, not that the truma that he gave loses its kedusha. That stays kedusha, right? He just has to pay it off again. So if that's the case, right? So then sumchus is saying the same thing as the Rabbanan, right? Because the Rabbanan don't differentiate between mezid and shoygig, right? And the chum say you just have to pay again. So what's the difference between them? Whether we say a knas shoygig because of a mezid is the difference between them. Yeah. So because why? Because Rameir is going to hold b'shoigeg, the tashlumin works, and you don't need to pay anymore. And Rabbanan are going to say whether it's shoigeg or mezid, you have to give back another tashlumin because we make a gezeira. Okay. Either way, the Gemara thought that the Rabbanan are nixing the truma, and the Gemara is saying no. According to everybody, the truma payment is considered truma. The kohen can go marry a lady. Just a matter of midirabanan, will we make the guy pay back the truma again? Even though we had in yesterday's daf or 2 days ago's daf that why aren't we choshed the guy's not going to pay it back? Okay, that's a different sugi. Next kasha, Toshima, continuing in the kodshim thing. Dam shenitma, so dam becomes tamei, bizarku, and they threw it onto the beis hamikdash, meaning they shecht an animal, right? And then the blood became tamei. So the main kapara from an animal by carbon only happens once the blood is sprinkled on the mizbeach. But what happens if after the animal was shechted, the blood became tamei? So you're not supposed to sprinkle it on the mizbeach. So, but let's say they did. So b'shoigeg hurtza. If he did it b'shoigeg, then it works. B'mezid. But if he did it on purpose, loy hurtza, then it does not work. But here midirabanan, right? Midirabanan works. The Tanya al mahat tzitz miratza, the tzitz, which is the, what do you call it? The head plate. The head plate that the kohen wore over his forehead. Yeah. So it helps for the mechila. What does it mean? It works if the blood became tamei, the meat became tamei, or the chela became tamei. Bein b'shoigig, bein b'mezid, bein b'oines, bein b'rotzen. Whether it happened on mistake, on purpose, against the will, with the will, bein b'yachid, bein b'tzibur, pami Rabbanan lo yortza. But the Rabbanan said it doesn't work. If he sprinkled the blood, b'mezid, it doesn't work. The kahadar ma'il chulin la'azara, and then what's going to happen is So when he brings another carbon, right? Because what happened? He had the carbon. He's waiting to sprinkle the blood. He sprinkles the blood, right? Which works midirabanan. The Rabanan said it doesn't work. So now what does he have to do? Go get a new carbon. That new carbon is not necessary min Torah. It's only necessary midirabanan. So really, he's bringing in chulin to the beis hamikdash, which is not allowed. So you see that the Rabanan are overruling a dioyraysa and could cause somebody to do an isser. So Rabbi Yossi Bar Chanina, my loy hurts the gomer lahatir basar ba'achila. When we say that it doesn't work to allow the meat to be eaten. Of a bailam the but the owners are going to have a kapara with it. They are going to have a kapara. Yeah. Yeah. What I asked, soif kamasakra achilas basar. Right? So you were oiker achilas basar. Uksiv va'achlu oisam asher kubar behem. And you're supposed to eat the meat that you had a kapara. When the koyanim eat the carbon, that's what causes the kapara. So isn't that supposed to be part of the carbon? That if the carbon is kosher, then the kohanim have a mitzvah to eat the meat. And now you're saying that they can't eat the meat? So again, it's the Rabbanan uprooting something from the Torah. So the Gemara answers, and this is very important yisoid in Isurei de Rabanan, right? Amarle sheval tasa shani. When the Rabbanan tell you to sit and not do something, my favorite words. I love sheving val tasa, right? That's right. So sheval tasa shani. Sitting and doing is different. Meaning, the Rabbanan are allowed to tell you don't do something. And like this, you won't be over on the Issa dioyraysa. I mean, I'm sorry. Sit and don't do it, and you won't be over, even though you're going to be over on Issa dioyraysa, but you're not actively being over on Issa dioyraysa. There's a word for it. How do you call it? What's the word?
Passively?
Passively. Very good. Thank you, doctor. Passively. You're passive. You're not doing the Chama not telling you to be actively be over on the Issa dioyraysa. That they can't do. They could just tell you, we're making a gezerah not to do this, and if because of that you're not going to do a mitzvah dioyraysa, that's fine, right? Which the Gemara is going to ask right now, right? Or the Gemara is going to bring a proof. On Amud beis, the Gemara says, Amar le, right? So he said to him, Boy, la subach, I was going to ask you from oral, right? So there's a lot of cases by Pesach that a ger who becomes a ger on Erev Pesach, so which l'chayra he should be able to. We had this a couple of times where he should be able to do a bris and then bring the carbon Pesach. The Chachamim said he's not allowed to. Right, meaning he has to wait. He has to wait a week. Right. So what do you mean? You say being mevatel the carbon Pesach because of the Rabanan? Right? So how can they do that? Hazah is a similar thing where it's sprinkled onto the mizbeach, right? And that's for Pesach. We say not on the mizbeach, on the person. We do not, when somebody who's tamei mace, we do not allow hazah on Erev Pesach. So that's also going to cause him not. The Ismail, the Chachamim said you're not allowed to bring a knife, carry a knife outside of an Erev on Shabbos and do a bris, right? Sadin, it's so the Chachamim said that you're not allowed to meaning in the old days, linen and wool, which is shatnez, you were allowed to have on tzitzis. Right? And the Rabbanon stopped that. So meaning they told the guy not to put tzitzis on. The Kivsei Atzeres is an interesting one, and it's interesting that this is Motzi Shavuos, right, Gershon? It's Motzi Shavuos. So Kivsei.
It's the daf of first day Yom Tov, no?
Yes, it's correct. Right, so Kivsei Atzeres, right? So the carbonas that are bought on Atzeres. This is very interesting because Rashi says he has no idea, he has no Kabbalah what Gezerah this is talking about, right? So normally it says on Shavuos they bring 2 carbonas, right, together with the Shtei Alechem, and it's supposed to be brought even when Shavuos falls on Shabbos, right? So then he says so if it was brought Shaloi Lishman, right, then how's it going to work? So even so, you still pour the blood onto the mizbeach. Whatever it is, there's another gzeira derabanan where the karbanos are not brought. The shofar is the one we all understand. The Chachamim said not to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, even though you're not doing a mitzvah. The lulav, same thing with lulav. Right. So these are all questions. How could the Rabbanan make a gezerah then cause people not to do a mitzvah dioyraysa? So he says this is what I was going to ask you. But hasha the shanas lan sheva al tasa lemi akaru. If you're saying now that you're saying that in a sheva al tasa, that's not considered uprooting a mitzvah dioyraysa because it's sheva al tasa. You're not actively uprooting it. You're passively doing it. The Chacham just told you don't do anything. That's allowed. So then kulunami sheva al tasa ninu. So all these cases are all sheva al tasa. So what the Gemara is saying is a very important yesod. The Rabbanon will not have the koyach, obviously, to uproot the Rabbanon. But if it's a dioyraysa, but if it's a sheva al tasa, then the Chachamim have the power to at least tell you, sit on your hands and don't do anything. And like this, you're not going to be you're not going to do the mitzvah dioyraysa, but the Chachamim have the power to do that. Taisus has interesting kashta. What kind of, it's not sheval tasa by tzitzis. The guy's going to wear a four-cornered the guy's going to wear a four-cornered beged without tzitzis. That's an isser. That's an isser dioyraysa. So Taisus says that when he puts on the talis, he's not chayiv, right? Only after, right? And so therefore, that's when it's not gonna. That's why it's not gonna be in that scenario where it's not where he's actually wearing it. Fine. Okay, so that's a big yesod. Sheva al tas the Chacham can tell you not to keep. So Toshima. Now we're on to the next kasha. Yeah. So it says a love tishmur. Yeah. So you should listen to a Navi. Even if the Navi tells you, be over on a mitzvah in the Torah, like Elio and Hara Carmel, because Elio had a competition with the Zara from Baal, and they decided that they're going to make a contest, and they're going to both bring korbanos, and then try and see who was the one that's makrivit, whose korban is going to be accepted. So even though he brought a korban outside of Beis Hamikdash, but since the Navi said to do it, then that's what it is. Hakol fisha, right? Everything according to the hour. Shamalai, you have to listen to him. So you see that Naviim can uproot what it says in the Torah. Tomorrow answer Shani Yasam Gesiv a love Tishvun. You have to listen to him, right? Meaning it doesn't mean it's to him. Meaning only to a Navi would you listen to. You don't listen to not to Dayanim and whatever it is. So that's where the whole Shapsei Tzvi story became a disaster. As he says that he was a Navi, people thought he was a Navi, and they listened to him, even though when he said to go things against the Torah. So Gemara says, "V'ligmar mina," right? Why don't we learn it out from there that the Chachamim also have the koyach? So my answer is Migdar Milstashani, to build a fence, right? That they're allowed to do. Meaning, when there are major averas going on, the Chachamim see that they have to do something major, right? Then it's allowed. Then they're allowed to do it. Like Rashi says, "Lasas geder v'takona ki hasam sheshivan al yedei kain ma'avodas kechavim." He's going to get Yidden to stop doing avodah zarah. So then that was important enough. Meaning by Elio Bahara Carmel, there was a whole competition between the avodah zarah and the Yidden. So he felt if he doesn't bring a korban to show them that the Jewish korbanos are accepted easier than the Goyish korbanos, then it was gonna have a problem. So he did it in order to get people back on the derech. So that was enough of a reason. Fine. So now we continue. Toshima. But so now there's a din by get, right? That when somebody writes again and sends it with a shliach, so re'ikar adin, until that shliach gives the actual get. For those just joining, we're on the 2 dots on Tzadi Yomi Beis, around 8-10 lines down. Fine. So Toshima. So Batlu Botlu. So anyway, so we were saying, but a get. So normally when you make a shliach to write a get, so until the get actually gets to the woman's hand, you can go back on the get and you can make all sorts of tanayim and stuff like that. Midirabanan. With the Rabanan you can't. So botlu mevatel. If he was mevatel the get, then mevatel that it's considered bottle. He cannot be mevatel it. He can't add on to the tanai. Imkain ma koyach bezdin yafa. So what's so good about the kohen, right? Not the kohen. What's so good about the bezdin? So the Gemara says, "Well, the midirabanan bottle get." Now here, right, the get is bottle midirabanan. Mushuma koyach bezdin kasharinon eishes ishla alma. And because we're afraid, we're going to say, okay, well, if you're going to say that the get is bottle, I'm sorry, the get is not bottle, so we're going to be matter, and we're going to say the get is good again. Minat Torah, the get is a kosher get. The Rabanan said the get is not a good get. Fine. So now she's going to go run around and get married based on the Rabanan, right? The Rabanan are saying that the get is
The other way around.
what I say.
Midirabanan, it's not a get.
Midirabanan, correct. Thank you. Midirabanan, it's not a get because he can go back on the get until it reaches the woman's hands. The Rabbanan say no, it is a good get. Okay, so now she's going to go to the street and get married. The Torah tells her that the get is no good, and the Chacham say no, don't worry about it. The get is good, right? How can that work? And all because of this rule of Ma Koyach Bezdin Yafa. Like how is Bezdin's Koyach? How good is Bezdin's Koyach? So how could that be? So when it answers, Manda Mekadosh, Adaitit Rabbanan Mekadosh. Whoever gets married Adaitit Rabbanan. Now this is from the most dangerous rules in Shas. Kinu Rabbanan the Kiddushin, and the Rabbanan knocked out the Kiddushin. Right? This is one of the things that. What?
I was gonna say. Let me hear what you say. No, Steve, that was one I was gonna say.
This is one of the things that got Reb Nata into trouble a couple of years ago, right? He took away the Kedushin but that was really a different case than this. That was Mekach Toys, and the guy was wrong. But really, I mean, if this line, and I mean, we do paskin like this, but if this line gets into the wrong hands, then you can have all sorts of problems with this. There's many rabbis who I've heard who have been mater divorced women to marry Kohanim based on these type of things, right? Meaning they were annulling their original marriage, but whatever it is. But that's what we're saying here. The Rabbanon have that power. The Gemara asks, okay, they can take back a marriage where the guy gave her a ring. Kadosh bebia, Michael. But let's say he got married with Bia, which they did back then, right? He slept with her. So how do you take that one back? So Gemara answers, Shavi Rabbanon the bilas nos. The Rabbanon just make it that it was a bias nos, meaning you can't take back the Bia, but they could say, okay, yeah, that Bia was a bias nos.
So how did the rabbis matter them to marry Kahana?
What?
How do those rabbis allow them? It's not let them marry something.
What? What do you mean? No, they said that the Bia was a bias nos.
Kind is allowed to marry his son, but they're not allowed. It's kind of though.
Single girl, yes. If she's single, then that's not as nos. Only if she sleeps with a guy. If she sleeps with a single yid, then that's not a problem. So that's not an issue. Fine. So Toshma, Amr Yaakov Shomati, Bezdin Makin Va'in Torah. I've heard that Bezdin could smack people, meaning give makas and give punishments, even when the Torah doesn't call for it. And not because people are being over on divrei Torah, when the Chachamim felt that they needed a fence, like we said before, then they would smack people. Right? There was a story where a guy rode a horse in the days of the Yevonim, and they brought him to Bezdin and they killed him. right? Meaning, but he was only over a derabanan. It's not an issa dioyraysa to ride a horse on Shabbos. It's an issa derabanan, so he shouldn't be chayav skila, but they smacked him anyways. Not because he deserved it, he wasn't fitting for it, because he wasn't over in issa dioyraysa. At the time that they needed it at that time, right? So people were starting to be makel on Hilchos Shabbos. So Rabanan did this again. Unfortunately, rabbis think that they have this power where, really it's mutter, but I'm gonna pull the rabbi card and say that it's also. And okay, when the Chacham, the Gemara is clearly saying that you're allowed to do this. I once had a rabbi who got ticked off at somebody who was the seventh day. There was a stain on a pad on the seventh day. He dropped it off at a rabbi. The rabbi didn't answer him, so he called me, and I said, "How big was it?" And I said, "It sure sounds fine to me." And she went to the mikvah, and they were together. Then the rabbi gets home, sees the pad, and says, "Nah, I don't think this is good." I said, "But," he said, "But I know another rabbi already paskin that it's good." So the guy said, "I don't care," and he made her wait another 12 days. I called the rabbi. I said, "Why don't you at least send me a picture of the pad?" I said, I was basing my psak on the description the guy gave, right? Which is fine. It wasn't that big. A pad is not a kabel tumah. Choshev Rav too, who was choshev in my eyes, right? I said, send me the pad, or at least I'll look at it and I'll decide if I'm willing to take the achrayas. No. The guy did what the guy did is not good, not right. That's Rabbanus and I always wanted to kill the guy, except he was from out of town. So what was I supposed to do with this guy?
Road trip to Yago.
Maybe, but then I mean, it's one.
Tweet not to use him.
It's one thing she didn't go to the mikveh. Okay, she went to the mikveh when they were together, right? That's it. Whatever. I'm just saying. So he goes, yeah, Rabbanus. The guy did is not right. What do you want from the guy? You didn't hear him back. He didn't hear back from you, so he asked somebody else, right? Okay, whatever. Anyways, so it's dangerous because I mean sometimes you do have to use this, but you better be darn confident in what you're doing with when that you're a Talmud Chacham enough, and have a bunch of Rabbanim that agree with you, that it's etc. Okay. I don't understand what the story is with this. There was a story where a person was hitiach be'ishtoi. And without Rashi, I have no idea what this means. Rashi means he was being intimate with his wife, tachas ta'ena, under a fig tree. Viviyu lebezdin velku, and they brought him to Bezdin, and they smacked him. They gave him malchus. Right, but not because he's royal. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah that if you're together with your wife outside in the street that you get malchus. But they felt that there was a lot of preachers, so it was necessary. Right, so whatever it is, you see that the Rabanan can do their isur, they can do their will even when the Torah doesn't call for it. So one of the answers again, migdar milsa shani, when you have to build a fence, that's different, right?
I don't understand. Why does the Gemara bring these stories this way around? The second one doesn't add anything to the first one. All they did was give him Malchus. The first one, they killed him.
Yeah.
Oh, was it shot they killed him or they gave him Malchus and he ended up dying?
No. The first one they gave him skila. First one is the lechatchila gave him skila, but there still is a chiddush in the second one. The chiddush, the second one, is that it wasn't even an isser. I mean, the first one was an isser derabanan. So we know that the truth is, if you are an isser derabanan, you are chayam misa. Right? The passuk says, "Pirates gather yishchenu nochash." If you break down the rabbanan's fence, you're gonna get bit by a snake. Right? So really, he's chayam misa. So okay, so they gave him the misa. Second one is not even an isser. I mean, it's an isser, but you don't get mal. You notice it's an isser, right? This is unfortunately a common thing people ask: Am I allowed to hold hands with my wife in public, etc., etc.? Right? You're not allowed to hold hands with your wife in public. It's considered pritzas, but not for malchus. You don't get malchus, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's okay. So that's the chiddush, I think, in the second case. Fine. Okay, so now we have it clear when the Rabanan are allowed to do things that are against the Torah. One, in the Sheva al Tasa, they're allowed to tell you don't do something, and then you'll passively not be over on the Isser. That the Chachamim can do. And then when they feel that there's a Eis Tzara, where they have to be very strict, and they have the rights to do that too. But you better be very, very confident about doing this. Otherwise, it can cause big problems. Fine. By the dioyraysa, so then the Mishnah. Remember again, this is all going on the Mishnah that says that the couple, that this lady who got married when her husband went overseas, and she heard either, there's two scenarios. Either she heard from an Eid Echad that he's dead, or she heard from two Eidim. But she hears from an Eid Echad, and Bezin tells her to get married, and then the husband comes back home. So she's in the worst situation. She's considered not married to either one of them. The kid's a mamzer. She doesn't get her ksuba. If they're kaihanim, neither one can become tamei to her, etc., etc. So now the Gemara is going to go through all those cases. Neither the first husband or the second husband can be metama to her when she dies. If they're kaihanim, minolan. How do you know this? The siv. It says by a kohen becoming tamei ki'im l'shteirei hakarav love, only to a relative who's close to him. V'amar mar shteirei zu ishtoi. The relative means his wife. That a person cannot become tamei to somebody who makes them chulin, right? Yesh baal shematama, yesh baal shematama. There's a baal that's matama, and there's a baal that's not matama. Okay, tzad matama hula ishta kshera. He's allowed to become tamei. The husband's allowed to become tamei to a wife who's kosher. Ve'ena matama lishta psula, but he cannot become tamei to his wife who's postal. And here the wife is postal because she's married to two husbands, even though it was not her fault, but the bottom line is she's married to two husbands, so therefore she's out. Fine. Then the next line in the Mishnah says, normally when a woman finds something, so the husband gets to keep it. So here, neither husband can keep my time of my Rabanan mitzvos isha l'bayla. How come the Rabanan said that when a woman finds something that goes to the husband, so that there shouldn't be any fighting between the wife and the husband, right? So here we want her to have we want there to be Ava and Ava, right? We want them getting divorced because the Maisa, she's married to two different men. So we're not going to do any takana that's there to make the marriage work. We don't want it to work because we want them getting divorced, right? I mean, we're forcing them to get divorced anyways, but there's certainly no takana to try and keep them happy with each other. Fine, when I see it there, right, and he doesn't get, right, if a wife works, really, it all goes to the husband. Time of my, I'm Rabanan, my see there. Why do I want to say that my see there go to the husband? Because since she eats his food, right, he feeds her, so he gets whatever work that she does. Keeping the mezayne less, since here she does not get food because he doesn't have to feed her. So therefore, what she earns doesn't go to him either. Fine. Right? And he doesn't do hafaras nedara, meaning if she makes a neder, he doesn't have a right to nix it. So the Gemara says, "Time of my Amar Achmana Baal Mefer." Why is it that the Torah says that the husband can eliminate his wife's nedarim, so that she does not she doesn't become disgusting on him. Meaning, she could sometimes make a neder that she's not going to take a shower, she's not going to put on makeup, she's not going to do this, not going to do that, and now he's stuck, the husband, with an ugly wife. So therefore, the Torah said that he's allowed to, right? So here we do, but here, if she makes a neder to be ugly to the husband, givaldik, that's exactly what we want, right? Fine. And if she's a bas Yisrael, she can no longer marry Kaihanim on Amud Aleph. Now this is today's daf. Right? So the Gemara says, Pshita. She's a Zaina. She was married to two different husbands. Of course she's puzzled to Kahuna. So Bas Levi min a Meiser. No, we need to talk about a Bas Levi who's puzzled from eating Meiser. Since she's a Zaina, so she cannot eat Meiser. So the Gemara says, Bas Levi min a Meiser, mi mifsel biznus. When did we ever see a rule that a daughter of a Levi stops eating Meiser from Znus? Vatanya Leviya Shenishbas. You have a Levi, a female Levi who was captured, which means automatically that we're assuming that the Goyim are going to rape her. or she was mezana. We do give her maisa. So what are you saying is she doesn't get maisa? So Rav Sheshes knasa. No, there's a knas. The Rabbana put on a knas that if a bas levi is mezana, she no longer could eat truma. Fine. Then a bas koyin, I'm sorry, she can only eat maisa. Bas koyin min a truma. A bas koyin can't eat truma. The Gemara says, what's the chiddush with that? So I feel truma the Rabbana, right? Right, because truma dioyraysa, it's pashut. If you're giving a bas levi a knas not to eat maisa, then you're certainly going to knas a bas kohen not to eat truma. So we're saying even truma the Rabbana she's not allowed to eat. They don't. We said neither one of their kids yarshin's a ksuba. So Gemara says ksuba maya vidite. What kind of ksuba? You already said before in the Mishnah she doesn't get her ksuba. The before in the Mishnah says the husbands, neither husband has to pay her the ksuba. Right? Meaning the ksuba is that when any time a woman, either the husband dies or the husband divorces her, they got to give 10 grand. Right? So ksuba, so we said neither one has to pay it. But then we're saying a few sentences later in the Mishnah that the Yarshim don't get the ksuba. There is no ksuba. So Rapapa ksuba benin dichrin. It's ksuba's benin dichrin. Right? Which we'll see in ksubas approximately somewhere in the summertime. We will be seeing this rule of nin dichrin, which is a type of ksuba that the problem was that parents, maybe this negated to you. Fathers didn't want to give a lot of money to their daughter. I mean, hopefully it won't be negated to you, but the ksuba's nin dichrin is meaning a guy marries off his daughter. He doesn't want to give her a lot of money because what happens if the daughter passes away, right, before her husband, and then the husband gets married, right? So then the money that the daughter had is not only going to go to her sons, but the second marriage kids are also going to have it, right? Right. The second, they're also going to get the money.
So we do monthly installments.
It could be, but in Israel they do one big installment, so I don't know, right? So, anyways, no, so they can write a ksuba, right, which is called benin dichrin, that only the father's grandsons, only his biological grandsons are allowed to take the money that he's giving to the daughter. The any other grandsons, meaning through whatever step grandson, however you want to call it, cannot. That's called the benin dichrin. So even if they wrote that type of ksuba, right? So then the kids will not be able. Meaning we're going to null and void this tanai in the ksuba. So it says
Nice to be back in Yevamos studios now.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So yeah, so the Gemara,
So
don't worry.
we're punishing her children to get at her?
Yes. So the Gemara is going to actually ask that. They're going to ask it somewhere. Somewhere the Gemara is going to ask that, doctor. I don't know. Somewhere I think on this stuff. Anyway, so the Gemara says pshit, that's pashut. We said no ksuba, so there's no ksuba. So the same surah. Oh yes, that's the Gemara's teretz. I'm looking at it like I only looked at the first line of the teretz. Yeah, doctor, that's the Gemara says the same surah. And she did an isser, so she gets a knas. She doesn't get the ksuba. Lazara like Rabbanan, but her kids don't get. Why should you knas the kids? Right? Why should the kids lose because the mother made a mistake? Kamash Milan. No, we do. We give her a knas. Fine.
It was just the opposite of the story by Reb Nata, that he stopped the mother from being buried because the son wouldn't give a get.
Right, that's true. Yeah, right. It's the opposite story. That actually saved the mother. Yeah. Fine. So then we said, and here now, parents, now that you said Yevamos, you asked for it. Okay, so let's say they died. Let's say the husbands died. Both the husbands are supposed to divorce her, right? The one that went overseas and the one she married. But let's say they died without kids. So now what? So both of them have to do chalitza, not yibum. So achiv sharisha and chalitza midirabanan. He does the chalitza midirabanan because that was a proper marriage. But the Rabanan said no yibum, right? Because of knas. Achiv, meaning the same way she can't stay married to her husband, she can't be married to her husband's brother. Achiv shel sheni chayitz midirabanan. The chalitza for the second brother is dirabanan, because really, v'lo miyavim lo midiraisa. So achiv shel sheni chayitz midirabanan. It's only dirabanan because there was no marriage, right? V'lo miyavim, and he can't do yibum. Lo midiraisa v'lo midirabanan. He can't do yibum not midiraisa because it's not even a marriage, and not midirabanan either, because again the same thing. It's not a marriage. How can we let her sleep with somebody else? Fine. Then we have to just chazir the Mishnah for a second. So in the Mishnah, there was three Tanoim who disagreed with the first part of the Mishnah. Rabbi Yossi said that she does get the ksuba, right? We had said that the Tanakama said there's no ksuba, and if she finds anything, she does. The husbands don't get it, and with the chalitza. So then Rabbi Yossi disagreed, and he said she does get the ksuba from the first husband. Rabbi Lazar says the first husband gets her ma'aseh yodea, and if she finds anything. And Reb Shimon says she could do chalitz or yibum from with the first if the first husband's brother does yibum or chalitza, then if there's another wife there, there's a tzara there, then she'll be potter, right? And then the kids are not mamzerim. Right, so those are the three different Tanoim disagree with the Tanakama. The question is, do these three Tanoim agree with each other or disagree with each other? And do all three disagree? Meaning it's each one specific to their case and not the other cases, or not? So now the Gemara is going to have two ways of looking at it. Amar Rav Huna, Pasroi Modul Kamoi, the later Tanoim, meaning Rabbi Lazar and Reb Shimon, are maida to Rabbi Yossi, meaning Reb Shimon is maida to Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Lazar is maida to Rabbi Yossi, and they're all maida to Rabbi Yossi. But Rabbi Yossi is not necessarily maida to them. Kamoi loy maida lebasroi, but Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Lazar are not maida to Reb Shimon. Yeah, that's the way Rav Huna says it. So now let's see how this goes. Reb Shimon maida leila Rabbi Lazar. Reb Shimon, who's the one that says the yibum that it works to potter the tzara, he's maida to Rabbi Lazar. The ma bia, the ikari surah loikonis bia, they did not really give a knas, right? Because she came mitziyasa umayzideh the mamaynu. So if we're saying bia, there's no knas, then for sure her mitzia and mammon, there's going to be no knas. Rabbi Lazar loy maida leila Reb Shimon, but Rabbi Lazar is not going to be maida Reb Shimon because mitziyasa umayzideh the mamaynu loikonis. It's just money. So they didn't make a knas. Aval bia the isurahu kanas, but bia, which is an isur, they did make a knas. V'tavayu maida Rabbi Yossi, and both of them are maida to Rabbi Yossi. Yeah, that's and hani. So that's one way. Hani the yasu to say like kanas, because anything, as long as they're married, there's no knas. But kol shekain ksuba the lemishkol mevatel, meaning if the things that work for a normal marriage, like mitzia and yibum, right? So there's no knas. So then something that's meant for them not to be married, which is the ksuba, that's there for her to take it and to leave, then for sure it's not going to be a knas. But Rabbi Yossi does agree with them because he says ksuba the mishkal mevek hu the loikonis. Ksuba they didn't do a knas. Avalhani the yasa to say kanas, but these things that she is sitting under them as a wife, then they did do a knas. Rabbi Yochanan Omar, he says the opposite. Kamoi moidu lebasroi. The first sheetas are moidu to the last sheetas. Basroi la moidu lekamoi, and the last sheetas are not moidu to the first sheetas. Let's see how this works. Rabbi Yossi moidu leilu Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Yossi is moidu to Rabbi Lazar. Ksuba dimididei lidida loikonis. Ksuba goes from him to her, so there's no knas. For kol shekain mitziyaso ma'aseh dimidida lididei. And kol shekain, a mitzia, which goes from her to him. Meaning, why should you knas him? What did he do wrong? The husband didn't do anything wrong. Maybe he didn't communicate with his wife. Maybe that, but that I guess the Gemara is the Gemara is not calling that doing something wrong. All right, so he didn't do anything. So why shouldn't he keep the mitzvah? Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Lazar was not made to Rabbi Yossi. Mitzvah who the mididal lidei loikonis. That's when it goes from her to him. They didn't make a knas avok suba. The mididei lidida. But a ksuba that goes from him to her, so she doesn't deserve it. So they had a knas. But Tavah moedel Reb Shimon, and both of them moedel to Reb Shimon. That what? Umahani de mechayim loikansi. If these things, right, the mitzias and the mefer nedarim, that it's mechayim. When he's alive, they didn't make a knas. Bia de lachar misa loy kol shekain zabia, which only comes after he dies, and then like kol shekain that there shouldn't be a knas. Reb Shimon loy moedel. Reb Shimon disagrees. Says bia hu de lachar misa loy konas. Bia was after misa. Okay, so the whole mice is over with. She's no longer married to the guy, so we're not going to make a knas. We'll say the even works. Aval hani the mechayim konas, but these, which is from when they're alive, then we're going to make a knas because we don't want them to have the standard marriage. Fine, let's just do a little bit more. Nisis shaloi b'rishus. Right, so she got married without rishus. Now we said, what does it mean without rishus? Without rishus means that there were two aidim. In the first case, it's called with rishus because one aid came and said that the guy died, and Bezdin said, okay, so we're going to allow it. So she needed a Bezdin for that. But if two aidim came along and said that the first husband died, so then what's the problem? She can go get married. This is the halacha. Right, that she does not have the same issa. She could stay married to the first husband. So Amalei Rav Nachman, why are you a stealer? Meaning, if you hold like Reb Shimon, which is what he's saying, Eim halacha Reb Shimon. Say the halacha is like Reb Shimon. Why are you saying this is the halacha? Like, say halacha is like Reb Shimon. The shmaitza Reb Shimon because your shmaitza is going according to Reb Shimon. Now, in the Mishnah, if you look back in the Mishnah, so the Mishnah, the last shita that disagrees with Tanakama is Reb Shimon, who talks about the chalitza and the yibum. And the next line we're saying is also Reb Shimon, which says that if she got married with Eidim, then it works. Whatever, then she could stay married to the first husband. So it's all Reb Shimon. So why didn't Rav just say the halacha is like Reb Shimon? So v'chitem, and if you're going to say, well, the reason why he didn't say the halacha is like Reb Shimon is because then you think it's like Reb Shimon that, and then the previous case is also like Reb Shimon. V'chitem, yamin halacha Reb Shimon. Mashma filu b'kamaisa, you would think that Allah is like Reb Shimon in the first case by Bia Chalitza. So Ema said, okay, so therefore you couldn't do it. So then the Gemara asks, well, Ema, halacha Reb Shimon b'achrayna. So why don't you just say the halacha is like Reb Shimon in the last case, not necessarily in the middle case? So the Gemara says, kasha, that's a kasha. Why didn't it do that? Okay, but either way, he's saying that if she got married with two Eidim, she could stay married to the first husband. So we had this a couple times. I think that Rav said this when he was falling asleep. And it doesn't make sense that Rav said this, because he must have been falling asleep. Because it's a halacha mechalal tepligi. He says halacha is that she when she gets married with Eidim, that means that somebody disagrees and holds when she gets married with two Eidim, she still gets a knas and she has to get divorced from the first husband. Right? That's not true. My havalei lamevad. What could she have done? Be honest answer. She's considered an einus. Right? Meaning this is an important line with this case. If she got married with two Eidim, that means she's doing everything correctly. So if it ends up being that her husband came home, that means she's an einus. The same way if a woman gets raped when she's married. Right? Parents, your kids are not listening, or you already explained to them what rape is?
They go to jail.
All right, they go to jail for rape. Okay, so that's the parents' kids kasha from the Shavuos night shir, because with the abortion, you want to know what rape is. He says the only thing he knows is he goes to jail for rape. What is it? But anyways, so in case he's listening. But anyways, so
No, I got the headphones on.
There you go. Okay, so when a woman gets raped and she's married, she could stay with her husband because it wasn't her fault. So too here, if she got married to somebody else with two Eidim, it's not her fault. So of course she could stay married with her original husband. So why would you say Allah is like Reb Shimon, which is mashma that some disagree? Tanya, and then another question we learned in the brayso: Kol harayos b'Torah ain't tzrichas emenu get. All harayos in the Torah, you don't need a get, right? Meaning because it's meaningless, like we've said many times. It puts me Eishes Isha Nisas Al Pi Bezdin, except for a woman who gets married Al Pi Bezdin. Al Pi Bezdin who the boy Gita. But so if she does it Al Pi Bezdin, then she needs a get. Alpi Edim loy gita. She doesn't need a get. So money, who's the shita? Elam Reb Shimon. If it's Reb Shimon, Alpi Bezdin mi boy get. If she does it, Alpi Bezdin, does she need a get? Vatani Reb Shimon oimer. Also Bezdin b'hay rasan kizadon ish be'isha. Bezdin did with the hayra like a man who does something, who's bemazed with an isha. Alpi Edim with witnesses. Kishigigus ish be'isha is like a woman who was b'shaygig, a man who was b'shaygig with a woman. Idi loy by again. They don't need to get. They don't need to get. So who must it be? Elolav Rabanan. It must be the Rabanan, right? But we know that we're saying that the Rabanan say that you don't need you don't need a get. So it has to be that the Rabanan and Reb Shimon agree that that the woman is allowed to stay married to the first husband, and there's no knas. So when it answers Loilam Reb Shimon, it's really Reb Shimon. Talking this, I have to explain the brisa. Reb Shimon Aimer asu bezdin by rasan kikavonas ish be'isha uboy get. When Bezdin made it that when they give a psak that the woman can get remarried, that's like the kavana of the man is to marry the woman, like a single girl, where a man sleeps with a woman, with a single woman, but they go on to marry her. You get, she needs a get. I'll pay him, right? And and if it's done with to Adam, that's like when a man sleeps with a woman without any kavanah to sleep with her, like what most guys do nowadays. And she doesn't need to get, right? So therefore we're saying that it's not a raya, it's not any sort of kasha about what the Rabanan would hold, right? Because the Rabanan are basically saying that the Bezdin, when they give a hayra, it's like a man actually marrying a woman with sleeping with a woman with the kavana to marry her, so she's going to need a get. But when it's two edim, then we look at it like he's doing it shalai kavana, and then they don't need a get. Rav Ashi Amar le'inyan isura katani. We're talking about the isura of Achikamar. Also bezdin b'hayrasan kizadan ish be'isha. The bezdin made with their stock, like if a woman sleeps with a man sleeps with a woman bemazed umitzra abayla, and she becomes also to her husband if she sleeps with a man on purpose. But if Adam come and say that the husband died, then that's like a shoygig v'loy mitzra abayla. Then she doesn't become usher on her husband on tamei beis. Yeah, Ravina Amar linian carbon katani. We did it linian carbon. It's talking about linear carbon. Also, Bezdin by Rasan Kizadin Ishbi Isha. Bezdin said when they when she got married with one aid, we make it like it was done on purpose. Below Masi carbon, she doesn't have to bring a carbon because it was done like through Bezdin. Al Piedim Kishigas Ishbi Isha. But if she got married with two aidim, then that's a shoygig of a man to a woman. Masi carbon, then she brings a carbon. Viva Yisema. Another pshat. How kamaisa Rabanan? He the first brisa is the Rabanan. For tiritz hachin, they're going to say this is the teretz chutz me'eshes ish, except for an eshes ish, right? The shenisas al pi bezdin that got married al pi bezdin, right? So when a woman according to the Rabanan, if a woman got married with two edim, then she's going to need a get from the second husband. According to Reb Shimon, she's not going to need, and according to the first, then he's going to need. Okay, the rest of the daf is pretty easy, but I guess it's late, so we'll just finish it up tomorrow. And Bez Hashem will be caught up. I hope this was understandable, but if not, I apologize. All right, a good zoomer to everybody.
Have a good night.
$1 reminder.
A who reminder?
$1 for those who didn't get to make it yet.
Oh, yeah, it's just
So he said Sphira.
Yeah, that's what I said.
What ended up happening with that silo, though? Did you have to wait another 12 days?
Yeah, the guy wouldn't budge, which I do. I said, listen, I can't. If the rabbi says the thing is no good, and I didn't see it, I have to go with the rabbi's word over the guy's word. The guy described it to me; it sounded fine, right? I would have been matir, and I could tell you right away. Had I seen this thing, I promise you, I would have been matir it. not 100%, 1,000%, I would have been matir it. But this guy kept it and refused. I mean, I didn't beg him for it. I just said, maybe, no, Rabbanus.
It's such a
Yeah,
chutzpah,
but
no?
then
The chutzpah, a big chutzpah. Yeah, I gotta be careful who you ask these questions. It's whatever.
But the problem is, and that choice is now a couple of things that they did a bia of znus or nida. I mean, that's a big deal, at least psychologically.
It is. It's terrible. It's
I mean,
terrible.
don't you try? Doesn't a Rav try his best not to bring a woman back to the mikvah?
Yeah. Yes, that's yeah.
That's a bonus.
About
In that Rav
Rabbanus.
Paskin, this last line of Gemara, she's have to bring a carbon. He's chayav
Right.
to bring a carbon.
Torah.
Let's see if fine. Laila Tov and Zumar Rabbis.
Agazon.
Tevach hagzun tezemah.
You
That's your
too.
carbon.
Okay. Avdallah.
What?
Avdallah.
Can I ask you
Ah.
a question on Rus?
You want to ask me a question on Rus? What's
yeah,
Rus?
So after what?
Law?
Well, we can stop the recording first. Nothing to do with the daf.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sure they want to hear your question on
No,
Rus.
I don't want anyone to hear it. I don't know if it's a good one.